Hi, my name is Michelle Coe, and I'm from McMaster University. On behalf of my co-authors, I'm delighted to summarize our approach to the conduct of outcome-centric reviews. I will prioritize the content of this talk to the unique aspects of overviews of reviews. In this talk, I will use the term overview to refer to overviews of systematic reviews. There are several synonymous terms, and these overviews allow us to systematically synthesize a large body of evidence. They may occur when one is in a situation for restricted time and fixed resources. Overviews also help reduce research waste. What do I mean by an outcome-centric review? In these instances, we identify critical and important outcomes. And by outcome, we assess the quality of evidence based only on studies contributing to the estimate of effect, rather than the quality of each study, since not all studies report the same outcomes. An outcome-centric review allows us to transparently summarize the overall quality of evidence across outcomes.
So what are some similarities and differences between systematic reviews and overviews of reviews? Similarities include a focused research question, identification of critical and important outcomes, methods to reduce bias, a systematic research, and transparent reporting. There are differences to note. First, the unit of analysis. In the systematic review, it's primary research, whereas in the overview is the systematic review. In terms of quality assessment, we look at the risk of bias for included original research contributing to an outcome in a systematic review, whereas in an overview, we look at the quality of the systematic reviews themselves. Finally, we need to consider overlap across included reviews.
Amstar is a 16-item tool that assesses the quality of conduct of systematic review. We use the Amstar in 2 steps in our overviews. First, for screening. Second, for the assessment of quality of the included systematic reviews.
Overlap is also an important consideration for overviews of reviews. Overlap occurs when multiple reviews include the same primary studies. Here is an example of a prisma diagram you would typically see in a systematic review. You'll note that in terms of identification and screening, the process for an overview of reviews is the same. When we get to the full text articles assessed for eligibility, you'll note that we here use the Amstar 2 criteria to identify a non-systematic review. Then we look at reviews that are available for outcomes. And here we are looking for all of the reviews that report our outcomes of interest. Here, we'll report the unit of analysis as the review. Finally, we'll report the total number of reviews included, report the total number of critical and important outcomes, as well as the number of reviews retained. Now, we need to identify how to select reviews for an outcome. First, we'll assess whether there was a direct measure of the outcome. If not, then the most pertinent indirect or surrogate outcome. Then, for the purposes of our reviews, we were interested in the effects by age, dose, and type. If a review reported all 3 effects, then we would retain it. If it reported less than or equal to 2 effects, we would look for a single review that would report 1 effect or more. If we identified multiple reviews, we would then choose based on an Amstar 2 assessment. We would first prioritize the highest Amstar 2 score, and if we had Amstar 2 scores tied, we would then choose the most recent review. If we identified multiple reviews, we would then calculate overlap in primary studies. Strengths of our approach include this foundation based on systematic reviews. We identified critical and important outcomes, and we used Amstar 2 to identify rigorous systematic review. We addressed overlap with the corrected covered area. Some of the limitations of our approach included a restriction to reviews published within a 10-year window. We did not look for primary studies published after the reviews. Some of the systematic reviews themselves were of poor quality, and we also identified multiple risk of bias tools in the systematic reviews. As in any synthesis, the quality of the primary research limits any inferences. Our lessons learned include it was important to engage a multidisciplinary team of content experts, information scientists, and methodologists. We adhere to 3 principles to guide decision-making, including methodological rigor, strategies to minimize bias, and reporting transparency. Our a priori approach include outcome selection and prioritization, review retention strategies, strategies to address multiple risk of bias assessments, addressing evidence gaps, and use of the PRISMA checklist. Thank you for listening to this talk. For further details, please see our manuscript in the special supplement.